What would it take for the Carolina Panthers to have a perfect offseason in 2026? That's what we're going to break down on today's show as you're watching Panthers Today by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Tyler Smith. What's going to go on with free agency? What's going to go on in the draft? What's going to go on via trades? What's Dan Morgan going to do to improve this Panthers roster and keep the momentum going for next season? We're going to break it down on today's show, but before we do, fill in the blank for me down in the comments section. I've been a Panthers fan since blank. Year, age, whatever it is. Let me know how long you've been a fan of the Carolina Panthers down below in the comments section. All right, from a wide, big picture perspective, here is what the offseason looks like for your Carolina Panthers. Currently, they have $28.6 million in available cap space. That ranks around the middle of the pack in the NFL, so not too bad there. Some decent money to spend here in the offseason. They have 19 unrestricted free agents, so that's something that they have to deal with. They're going to have to weed out and re-sign their guys. They can clear around $20 million with the roster moves in terms of restructures and trades, depending on who gets dealt with. And then you guys know the NFL salary cap is bound to increase, as it has every offseason over the past few, so even more money is going to be available for your Carolina Panthers. So let's get into this perfect offseason. What's it going to take for Carolina to take that next step? Well, first, like I said, you got to weed out and re-sign your free agents. With 19 unrestricted free agents, there's a lot of guys that are going to have already played their last game as a Carolina Panther. And let's just start with the guys that you need to let walk, like offensive lineman Jake Curhan and David Moore and DJ Wonham and Travis Gibson and Christian Rosaboom. Like, some of these linebackers for Carolina don't need to be on this team anymore, including Chris Barnes and Caleb Evans and Robert Rochelle. And these guys just aren't really contributors. Most of them depth pieces anyway on short-term, cheap deals, and they're just going to find a new home in 2026. So these guys can go, and one of the bigger names that I think is going to have to walk in free agency this offseason is going to be running back Rico Dowdle. He was awesome, man, especially at the start of this season, but you saw his carries go down as Chuba Hubbard got healthy and factored more in to the offense toward the tail end of things. So Rico, I think both sides kind of got the most out of their partnership here in the 1 year. Rico got a prove-it deal, and he certainly proved it, and Carolina got a solid 1-2 punch in their backfield. But financially, I just don't think it's going to make sense for Carolina to bring him back when he's going to command more money this offseason. Now, you have a couple of special teamers that are unrestricted free agents as well. Punter Sam Martin and long snapper J.J. Jansen. They could stay or they could go. There's talks about Carolina maybe going a little bit younger at those two positions, but I'm pretty indifferent on it. They're solid guys at that spot, and it would be fine if they stayed or go, in my opinion. Now, some guys that the Panthers must re-sign at this point. I honestly feel like, aside from Jake Curhan, who we had in the let them walk portion, most of, if not all, the offensive linemen that you have entering free agency should be brought back, especially when you consider the injury to Ike Ekwonu that is going to keep him out for at least the start of the season, maybe the entire 2026 season with that patellar tendon injury. You got Cade Mays, who is going to probably come back here. Austin Corbett, who's moved around the offensive line and played well at multiple positions. I'd bring him back. Brady Christensen, I'd bring him back as well. Most of these guys are at a solid age, before 30 years old, to go out there and bring him back. And Yosh Neiman, I'm in on bringing him back as well, because you're going to need some depth at that tackle spot. And then the big name here, Jalen Coker. You have to bring back Jalen Coker. He's an exclusive rights free agent, so it's going to be fairly simple to get that done, but this could be your wide receiver 2 of the future. 9 grabs for $134 and a touchdown in the wild card against a great defense in the Los Angeles Rams tells me that the Panthers have a solidified 1-2 punch at their wide receiver spot. Ted McMillan and Jalen Coker, young cats to the moon. I'm all about bringing back Jalen Coker. And you know what? Some guys I would bring back, but I wouldn't say are must re-signs. Nick Scott at safety. I feel like Panthers Twitter and Panthers fans in general are pretty divided on whether or not to bring back Nick Scott. I'm a fan of his. I think he makes plays, and I'd bring him back at that safety spot. And then Isaiah Simmons, I would try to retain too. He's clearly proved himself as a solid special teamer in this league. Had a huge blocked punt toward the tail end of that wild card matchup. So I'd bring him back. I think he proved enough to earn another contract in Carolina. Now, this is my second perfect offseason move. This is the big fish of Carolina's free agency. You got to go out there and sign Devin Lloyd. Like I mentioned previously with the linebackers on this roster, it was by far the weakest portion of this defense. We saw Sean McVay and that Rams offense attack the middle of the field in that wildcard matchup, and that's large in part due to the fact that these linebackers on Carolina cannot cover. Inside linebacker was your weakest position, bar none. And I'll tell you guys right now, Devin Lloyd is the number 1 inside linebacker on the free agency market at this point. Not only because he can make plays on the line of scrimmage, fly around the football field, but also due to the coverage acumen that he has. He earned an 81 PFF coverage grade in the 2025 season, in addition to his 81 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. He had 7 pass breakups, including 5 interceptions from the off-ball backer spot, including a fumble recovery as well. This guy just has a nose for the football, can make plays, can create turnovers, and that's what Carolina really needs in their inside linebacker spot. Devin Lloyd is the big fish of the offseason in terms of free agent targets for your Carolina Panthers. And I say this because there's a pretty good chance that he ends up leaving the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's going to be very tough financially for them to bring back Devin Lloyd. So he's going to be on the open market, and there should be nobody more willing to pay and make him a star of their defense than the Carolina Panthers here. And Devin Lloyd, when talking to media after the season ended for Jacksonville here, he said in terms of free agency, he'll go where God wants him to go. Now, if you want to read in between the lines a little bit there, that means he's going to go wherever the paycheck is the highest, and hopefully that is with the Carolina Panthers. Hopefully Dan Morgan makes a splash like he did last free agency. He's shown that he's had a willingness to spend, and he says they're in win-now mode. Devin Lloyd is a win-now player. But if you miss on him, there's a couple of names you could go after as well. You got Devin Bush, who's had a little bit of a career resurgence there, who I wouldn't be too mad at. Good coverage backer there. Leo Chenal of the Kansas City Chiefs, he's nice and young, as well as Nakobe Dean, who's a nice young player as well, even though he kind of got diced up on that Christian McCaffrey route that ended up winning that wild card game against the 49ers. So I'd go with any of these guys if you missed out on Devin Lloyd, but seriously, I would throw the bag at 0, and I'd make him the captain of this defense if I'm the Carolina Panthers. With that being said, if they make any of these moves, we're going to break them down, and you're going to see all the latest Panthers news, rumors, trades, draft, free agency stuff, and more right here on the channel at Panthers Today. So go down below and hit that subscribe button for free Panthers content all the time. This is a new channel at Chat Sports, and it's 100% free to subscribe. All right, let's get into some more perfect offseason plans here. Look, if there's going to be additions made to this team, it doesn't only have to be on the defense. We need to get Bryce Young some more weapons. I know. I said Ted McMillan and Jalen Coker are your wide receiver 1 and 2 of the future. But beyond that, there needs to be improvements to this team on the offensive side of the ball. You need to go out there and get a wide receiver 3, or who knows, maybe you make Jalen Coker your slot guy and you go get another boundary receiver. Tight end, though, is a position that I think that needs to be massively improved here for Carolina. With Tommy Tremble under contract for one more season, it's just not a guy who I think is going to be the long-term answer at that spot. A nice tight end, too, but they need to go get a certified tight end 1 that would make Bryce Young's job a heck of a lot easier. We know with these shorter quarterbacks, they like to defer to the tight end, so why not go get him one in the first round of the NFL draft in terms of Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq. Now, he has been mocked to the Carolina Panthers a couple of times here, but he's also a guy who's quickly moving up these draft boards. So I'm not so sure at pick 19 if Carolina will be able to select Kenyon Sadiq. But if they are and he's on the board, that would be a no-brainer of a first-round pick. This guy's athletic. He is who Evan Ingram was supposed to be coming out of college. A little bit of a Kyle Pitts mold as well. He can line up outside. He's really that true receiving tight end that could take teams over the top. But if he's not there at pick 19, or if you decide to go elsewhere with that selection, there's some free agent tight ends that are really good, man. Like, they're pretty damn good. You got Kyle Pitts, who was on my free agent targets video, who I'd welcome with open arms. Interdivision from Atlanta to Carolina. Isaiah Likely is a guy who just needs to get more of an opportunity. He's been behind and kind of in tandem with Mark Andrews throughout his entire career in Baltimore, and just 25 years old. I feel like that'd be a sound investment. David Njoku at 29, wouldn't mind that either. It would be a little bit cheaper. And then Dallas Goedert, if you want a veteran in that offensive room, because it's filled with a bunch of young guys. Bryce Young's 24, Tet's coming off a rookie season, Jalen Coker going into year 3. So, I mean, Dallas Goedert, in terms of a veteran voice, sure hands, somebody you can rely upon day in and day out, I'd be willing to take that chance on Goddard as well. But he has some injury history. We'll see about that. In terms of some wide receivers, the free agent market for wide receivers is pretty shallow this offseason, but there are some pretty big fish. Alec Pierce, he's going to be due for a payday, man. He's had an awesome season in Indianapolis with the quarterback turnover that they've had there. He was making Daniel Jones look like a worthwhile investment, and he's a deep threat that I think would do wonders for this Carolina Panthers team. Now, do I want to throw $25 million at him? I'm not so sure with what the Panthers have at their disposal, cap space-wise, but I would certainly make the call and at least entertain the idea of bringing Alec Pierce to town. Now, in terms of Romeo Doubs, who's a free agent this offseason, I've heard that there's still interest from Carolina's end on Doubs, as he was a trade target for them early on this season. They ended up making a deal because I think they lowballed the Packers on their offer, but I think there still remains interest in Romeo Doubs, so look out for him to be the other boundary wide receiver while we move Jalen Coker into the slot. Now, lastly, on this perfect offseason list, we're going to trade for Maxx Crosby. Why not go out there and get an absolute stud? If you can go out there and sign Devin Lloyd and then bring in Maxx Crosby, this defense is going to be taken to the next level. And you see that I don't have Fire Ijiro Efero here because I think if you add a bona fide number 1 pass rusher, a top 5 pass rusher in this league in Maxx Crosby, this defense that he calls is going to look a lot better because it relies upon getting pressure on the quarterback. Look, things between Crosby and the Raiders, they're not that great at this point. The Raiders decided to shut him down with a phantom injury toward the end of the season, and that rubbed Maxx Crosby the wrong way. He's not happy with the Las Vegas Raiders at this point. So at this turn, it feels like a trade has never been more likely for Maxx Crosby than it is this offseason. Maxx Crosby is a bona fide Hall of Fame level talent if you look at what he's done over the last few years, man. And this year in 15 games, he still had 10 sacks, 53 pressures. I mean, he's guaranteed 50-plus pressures every single season. He's missed a little bit of time over the last 2 years, but I'd argue that's more because of the Raiders just being in a terrible spot than Crosby really being an injury-prone guy. If you go back to 2023 and 2022, where he had 27 sacks combined and 175 pressures in 2 seasons, I mean, this guy is unbelievable. And, there's going to be a pretty penny that you have to go and pay in order to get Maxx Crosby. He is under contract for the next 2 years, but I'm talking about the trade price on this guy. As far as where talks start for Maxx Crosby, this is where it's going to have to start. It's probably going to have to be more than this, but you're at least giving away pick 19, and hopefully Kenyon Sadiq's not there, so you give away that pick and you're okay with it. Yeah, you got to give away an additional high-level pick in the 2027 second, and then Xavier Legette, who, the Raiders could use some more receivers. The Panthers really don't have anything for Xavier Legette at this point anymore, so I would throw him in this deal. But the crux of it is going to be this first-round pick and the second-round pick in 2027. That's where things would start. Micah Parsons got 2 first-round picks from the Green Bay Packers in exchange for the Dallas Cowboys. So we will see. It's going to be a very expensive player to go out there and trade for, but you got to make the Raiders say no. You have to make the Raiders say no about a guy who could transform this defense. Seriously, Maxx Crosby and Devin Lloyd are 2 players who could make this Carolina Panthers defense a top 10 unit in all of football. So go out there, make a call to the Las Vegas Raiders, throw what you can out to go get Maxx Crosby, and see if the Raiders decide to bite, because this would be the biggest fish they could possibly acquire in a perfect 2026 offseason. With that being said, let's hear from you down in the comment section before we get out of here on today's show. Name a player that you would want the Carolina Panthers to sign or draft this offseason. Comment down below who your number 1 target for the 2026 offseason is, as that will do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel once again. YouTube.com/Panthers Today for all the latest, greatest news and rumors on your Carolina Panthers during the 2026 offseason. We'll see you guys next time, and as always, keep pounding.